What has Monster Hunter as a series been but a journey of growth and a passing of tradition? As the years have gone by, the games have evolved, building upon its foundations, and alongside that growth, hunters have developed from one generation to the next. Whether they return to familiar lands or venture on into the unknown, they learn, they grow, and they teach. The transformation of this series and its hunters is truly a sight to behold, but this grand journey would not have been the same without this particular plump creature. This sapient swine has been with us since the very beginning. From the outset of our adventures in the town Mindguard to defending the very walls of Dundurma. He was there when we dove into the depths of the ruins surrounding Moga and while we protected the city of Loklak. He hitched along as we traveled on our caravan to lands lost to time, and he accompanied us on our journey to a new world. Poogie wasn't just a simple pig, he was a companion, a familiar face, a source of joy between dire hunts and impending calamity. Through all of our adventures, he was there with us every step of the way, offering an oink and a smile in exchange for an unadorned pet. That is, until one day when he suddenly disappeared. The release of Monster Hunter Rise was the first time in series history that Poogie was completely absent from a Monster Hunter game. 16 years of critical acclaim, game covers, merchandise, cameos, collaborations, underwear ads, and suddenly nothing. Without warning, Poogie vanished. It has been a 4-year swineless void. Within that time, Poogie's appearances outside of the latest game have diminished drastically. He's gone from appearing in every single mainline game, numerous spin-offs and promotional material to 2 cameos. The first of which is his appearance in Monster Hunter Puzzle Feline Isle, which is one of Monster Hunter's current mobile games. And to be fair, it is a spin-off of the Dark Souls of Monster Hunter, which is widely recognized as a masterpiece. However, Poogie's main role in this game is showing up in puzzles as someone you'd literally have to beat up to clear the board, instead of a loving creature that you'd pet for divine luck. His only other appearance within that time, aside from being a Gachapon prize in Monster Hunter Rise, is his brief appearance in the Daisy Ridley narrated official Capcom video titled Welcome to Monster Hunter, where he is depicted as an illustrated version of the greatest Poogie render ever created, which is coincidentally the profile picture of this channel. By far, the biggest blow to the Poogie fandom was his absence from the Monster Hunter 20th Anniversary merch collection. Despite the myriad of collaborations and merchandise options, our solemn swine was out of the picture. Not a single hint of him on the Monster Hunter Wilds green Japanese exclusive bicycle either. Considering his prior popularity, the lack of Poogie felt like a conscious, clear message to all fans of Monster Hunter. He was gone. Monster Hunter without Poogie is a world we had never known. Why would this heavenly hog suddenly vanish as if he never existed? Was he really turned into a pile of meat in Kamura Village, ready to be used for a food buff that would bestow a stamina increase along with Swine Defender High? Or was there something about Poogie we didn't know about that would lead to his sudden and tragic disappearance? The launch of Monster Hunter Wilds was the opportunity to find the answers to these dire questions. Booting up this game for the first time filled me with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. I was excited to experience this new generation of Monster Hunter and witness this series once again build upon its aforementioned foundations, but at the same time, I was anxious because there was a chance I may never see Poogie again. If I made it to the end of the game and he wasn't there, it would be over, and the thought of that was nothing short of sickening. It didn't help that Capcom was really pushing Baby Sacred as the mascot for Monster Hunter Wilds in a lot of its promotional material. In fact, he accompanied the previously mentioned Monster Hunter Wilds green Japanese exclusive bicycle. It may once again be another Kahoot situation where we can only have one adorable creature at a time per title, a sole focus on one adorable animal, and any creature out of the spotlight doomed to obscurity. Poogie's complete absence from this game would confirm our deepest fears. Hog erasure. It was time to begin my search. It's now or never. Having played the open beta, I wasn't too surprised with not seeing him within the first chunk of the game. I already spent my fair share of time searching for him, while also trying to solve the mystery of the so tasty well done steak. I knew that if he existed within the game, he would appear in an area we've yet to see. Although it would have been hilarious if they did have him appear here and had him CGI'd out of the beta to ensure a surprise with the game's release. But alas, that was not the case. I progressed further into the Forbidden Lands, traversing new biomes and journeying to mysterious villages. Deep in my mind, I knew that every beautiful vista, stunning scenery, and open passageway I laid my eyes upon, a part of me was searching for a sign of him. Every time I passed through an area, I would always look back. Did I somehow overlook him? Suddenly, it hit me. We started our journey on a sand skiff, traveling with Gemma, venturing into new villages and unfamiliar territories, accompanied by Fabius, facing familiar foes much like our adventures 2 generations ago. And once again, we ascended to a village high above the clouds. It felt all too familiar. Walking that path up to Suja, it felt surreal. As if the last 4 years never existed. As if time itself had stopped for this pig. He hadn't aged a single day. Our dear Poogie. There he was, seemingly without a care in the world. The past of this series led me into the future. Poogie had shed himself of his garbs and was living his life to its fullest, peacefully sequestered among the Wyverians in the village. Curiously, a frog seemed to have found a new home atop of Poogie's head. A frog on a hog. While its name wasn't apparent, I found Froogie to be quite fitting for this creature. As incredible of a reunion this was, currently Poogie's reappearance raises more questions than it answers. Where exactly has he been for the last 4 years, and why did he suddenly disappear? The truth to these questions would change everything we knew about Monster Hunter. Dawn breaks upon Suja, and its light illuminates the ruins of Wyveria. The villagers begin their daily routines, and so does Poogie. I understood he was living a new life now, but I wanted to know exactly what that consisted of. To answer that, I, in the least creepy way possible, had to observe every single movement, moment, and morsel of Poogie's life within Suja for several days. I didn't leave him out of my sight for a second. At first, this was actually quite difficult because of Poogie's friendly and outgoing nature. You see, if you take out your binoculars or enter photo mode, Poogie will use his 7 porcine senses to detect you, and will immediately begin to make his way over to greet you and follow you around. The problem here being that he would stop whatever he was doing or wherever he was going, and that would defeat the purpose of observing him. So I had to be really sneaky, and position myself really far away. I even threw on the ghillie mantle whenever I could for good measure. Maximum stealth was essential here, and once I was situated, I could finally see what he was up to. Poogie's day consists of roaming to various locations in Suja. The village itself isn't really that big, but because of Poogie's tiny little legs, it would take him hours of in-game time to get from one location to the next. Sometimes he would go to the same destination multiple times a day. He'd go to a spot, leave that spot, and then return to the exact same spot shortly after. By the time he's made it to wherever he wants to go, it's usually late into the evening, so Poogie and Froogie would hunker down and rest until the sun comes up the following day. That's really what everything he does boils down to. Walk, sleep, repeat, with occasional sniffing. I didn't think his new life would be so chill. I expected him to have some newfound responsibilities up in Suja, like collecting truffles for the community, unearthing some buried treasure, or doing the Alharkin's taxes. Instead, he spends most of his time either going on a walk or sleeping peacefully. In a way, I was impressed at the simplicity of his new life. No more getting stuck in spider webs, drowning in rivers, or comically being chased by a high-resolution Azure Rathalos in an open field. In terms of gameplay, Poogie within the confines of Monster Hunter Wilds behaves quite differently from previous titles. You can of course still pet him, timing your button press to the exclamation point that appears, and if you're unsuccessful, you will face his all-consuming wrath. Hilariously, Poogie marches into an unreachable part of Suja that he never goes to on his typical day-to-day activities. Perhaps that's somewhere special he goes to collect his thoughts. However, if you're successful in petting Poogie, after spinning in complete glee, he rewards you with a variety of goodies, including herbs, mushrooms, and even the elusive Truffle de Conga. You can of course grab these truffles from the great ape Baba Conga himself, but it would be quite the smelly endeavor. Seriously, stay away from this guy. He is having some really bad gut bacterial issues right now, and he's self-conscious. And of course, as every veteran hunter knows, after petting Poogie successfully, he gives you a hidden buff to grant you every single rare drop that you desire. In the Poogie menu, you only have one other option, and that is the option to name him something else. Personally, I've always had him named Poogie. At this point, it would be strange to call him anything else. In Wilds, you could name him whatever you want, but I'm a big fan of the preset names in the older games, like the ones in Monster Hunter Tri, for example. Here's a look at some of the localization team's finest contenders. Sloppy, Chubbs, Homer, Dr. Ham, Peter, Hogworth, Stivone. As great as they are, I'm still sticking with Poogie. Aside from just hanging out with Poogie in Suja, petting him and changing his name are the only things the game allows you to do with him, which means there are two very important features that are missing. The first being the fact that you can't pick him up anymore. This was quite disappointing as I really enjoyed bringing him around with me to random locations. My personal favorite being able to take him from the Moga farm all the way back to your Moga hut, where he would stay to hang out. The animation of your hunter straining to hold him as if he was the weight of a mega barrel bomb will be sorely missed. But it seems like he wants to move on his own terms from now on. The second missing feature is that Poogie is unable to change outfits. At all. Historically, this bodacious boar was known for all of his varying outfits of varying rarity. Fashion was key when it came to Poogie. No hog and a frog, Poogie Gamma, or Devil Hog? What gives? To me, his lack of clothing and ability to be carried around by our hunter seemed to be a deliberate choice, but I still didn't understand why. I decided in order to truly understand Poogie, I just had to understand the people that he now lives with. They are the ones that spend the most time with him after all. We know the Alharkin serves an important role, to aura farm in front of Wyveria and neglect her taxes. However, I wanted to learn more about the largest Wyverian in Suja. His name is Tetsuzan, and he's quite hard to miss. This isn't our first time ever seeing a larger-than-life Wyverian. In fact, one of the highest-ranking Wyverians, dubbed His Immenseness, is the size of 3 Doshigumas, and strong enough to wrestle with the great Lao Shan Lung. Similarly to His Immenseness, we mostly see Tetsuzan seated. However, what sets Tetsuzan apart is he's often seen asleep. When speaking to him, he reveals that it is his sworn duty to protect this village. However, he has been enjoying this era of peace and does not take its tranquility for granted. While he does spend most of his time sleeping, it would be a frightening sight to see him using a suitably sized switch axe or something to defend this village from the guild's tax employees. Indeed, Tetsuzan is a mysterious figure, as he doesn't go into much detail about his past, but it's surely implied he's seen his fair share of strife and hardship. It seems Poogie finds kinship with him, as they are often seen napping together, enjoying the peace within Suja.
These days of quietude are a treasure.
The villagers are busy with their day-to-day lives, and many of them simply talk about what's going on in their day, with occasional words of wisdom sprinkled in. Out of all the villagers you're able to speak with, there are 2 of them that directly mention Poogie within their list of dialogue options. And what they have to say are the key to not only understanding Poogie in Monster Hunter Wilds, but within the series as a whole. Take a look at what Kumoy has to say. That plump little creature is called Poogie. It's been living here since times long past. Wait, what? Times long past? The sheer implication of this line of dialogue was staggering. How old is Poogie exactly? And how long has he been here? While it's true that Poogie has always been revered as a deity-like figure, to have such claims corroborated by an NPC in a Monster Hunter game was completely unexpected. Just who is this Poogie?
Old King Pugulius H. Bacon, ruler of Wyveria. Hailing from the mountain known now as Suja, adorned with his shimmering gold crown and wrapped in an absorbent royal garb, he has been ruling this kingdom since time immemorial. His lifespan is immeasurable and his wisdom never-ending, or so he thought. Under his guidance, the people of Wyveria acquired powers that no civilization should ever obtain. Using the dragon torch, Poogie played God. Harnessing the very elements, he had the ability to change the weather on a whim, infinite power for Wyveria's technology, and the means to create artificial beings intended to use as war machines, casting aside anyone who didn't agree with his methods to his former home. Poogie did things other civilizations could only dream of, but the hubris of Wyveria would be its downfall. He would witness his kingdom crumble and be left to ruin, his people among its ashes. A king without a kingdom. Fleeing the disaster, Poogie only had a single choice: shedding the crown on his head and the diaper on his behind. He swapped to more humble attire and went on a journey of self-reflection. It was a long road leading from what was once Wyveria. Where would it take him? Well, somewhere along this road is where our paths align with Poogie. After numerous cold years in solitude, a gentle pet from our hunter was the first step in change. From this moment on, Poogie would stay by our side for as long as he needed to. Through nearly 2 decades of adventure, Poogie grew alongside us. The valiant hunter, no matter how hopeless the task, would rise to the occasion and fight. Without weapons of mass destruction or powers that totally defy the fabric of nature, the hunter would time and time again protect what they hold dear with their own strength and the occasional Dragonator. Our triumphs affected Poogie deeply.
In between the successfully averted calamities, Poogie would take the time to go out and see the world. All the places he had never known about, despite his view from atop of the earth. Sometimes he'd run into some problems, but thankfully we'd always be there to give him a helping hand. In exchange, of course, he would offer up some of his divine powers of luck and abundance. During this time, Poogie was getting increasingly popular. The more places he went, the more fans he accrued. People from all around the world wanted to give him a pet. Before he knew it, he was allowed into anyone's home. His face was plastered on merchandise and cameos far and wide. He witnessed all these people in all of these places happy and thriving, without the need for a dragon torch or a 100-foot tall hell demon demigod dragon weapon. The years go by, and one day, something huge happens. Poogie witnesses us take down the beast that raised the kingdom of Shrade. The parallels of this creature mirroring the events that befell his kingdom was what it took for him to finally understand. He understood that true strength lies in protecting what you love, and not by simply fabricating it. To see something so similar to what ruined Wyveria be taken down by the very hunter he accompanied was the final thing he needed. This was the last we saw of Poogie. His time in our lands had come to an end. Leaving his newfound life of comfort and fame, it was time to move on. Within those 4 years, Poogie journeyed back to the Forbidden Lands, slowly traversing its biomes with his comically small legs. Through the unforgiving dunes of the Windward Plains, Poogie marches into the Scarlet Forest, and with his patented charm, he would befriend a colony of frogs that would join him in Suja. Frugi among them. Hismo in Suja village says to our hunter, "I'd always thought that frogs were creatures that rode on a Poogie's back. Is that not the case?" While not always on Poogie's back, they were indeed brought to Suja to prosper. He chose to use his experience to foster these frogs as members of the community and not to simply rule over them with an iron hoof. Heading through the oil well basin now, Poogie is reminded of the lands he would once control simply with the power of the dragon torch. On a whim, its power could light these lands aflame, bursting with energy. And what greater reminder of his past life than crossing the ice shard cliffs? Beneath the frost lies the memories of what once was. Every building, watchtower, and hallway used to be bustling with life, ruled by a foolish king who took it for granted. But he was no longer the same hog he was centuries ago. This was the perfect opportunity to reflect on everything Poogie has learned in the last 16 years. The strength to overcome adversity, to foster community, and to live peacefully, harmoniously with nature. Returning to his former homeland, Suja, accompanied with his frogs, Poogie arrives reborn. Curiously, when we stumble onto Suja, Hismo says to our hunter, "Perhaps I'll set out on a journey along with Poogie. If we are able, we shall travel to your homeland. Poogie will surely be well loved there, He's correct in the fact that Poogie would be well loved, but it would be to his surprise that Poogie would be treated as an old friend instead of a newcomer. Many villages and cities greeting him with open arms once again. The people within Suja are unaware of his past triumphs and adventures in distant lands, but of course it's not easy for news to travel to a location labeled as forbidden and uninhabited, and Poogie isn't one to oink much about his past. In regards to traveling back to our homeland, I'm not sure Poogie wants to be anywhere else. He chose to return to Suja. His entire outlook on life has shifted. He has no more need for material possessions, even shedding the clothes on his back. This is the very reason we're not able to dress him up in game. His time of flaunting lavish outfits is behind him. He has no more need for fame. In fact, even with the recent seasonal event, the Blossom Dance Festival, Poogie was nowhere to be found in the Gathering Hub. Despite living steps away in the village of Suja, he chose not to partake. The polar opposite of being dressed up and spotlighted in the latest seasonal wear like he would often be seen in Monster Hunter World. His new lifestyle explains his absence from the Monster Hunter Anniversary merchandise. He doesn't relish the attention anymore, and he probably doesn't even like green bicycles. And lastly, he has no need to be charioted by us. He has no desire to be carried around by his human carriage. He will stand on his own 4 awesome feet and head to his own destinations on his own terms, even if it ends up taking an excruciating amount of time. The Poogie of Wyveria, the Poogie we met 20 years ago, and the Poogie we see today are all different. This doesn't mean Poogie doesn't appreciate our presence. No, far from it. He will still greet us like an old friend, taking time out of his day to enjoy the peace with us. Upkeeping and enjoying peace is now what he's best at. As Hismo says, watching Poogie always brings me calm. Just as Poogie was for our hunter for nearly 2 decades, he will be the rock for all life atop this mountain. Poogie's sole focus is now to uphold peace, using his own strength to watch over his people, to live a new life with new meaning. All thanks to what he's learned from Wyveria's fall, the lands he's traveled, and from our hunter. He has finally learned how to lead. I don't know if it's forever, but I know now that Poogie is ultimately where he wants to be, doing what he was meant to do. For the time being, Poogie won't be seen in the same capacity that we've witnessed in his 16 years of appearances since 2004, but strangely, I'm okay with that. At least he isn't a string of braised meats in Kamura Village or a pile of mouth-watering carnitas. He's found purpose and meaning and climbed out of his hole of aimlessness and disparity. His folly and pain has turned to wisdom and strength. He may not be in the spotlight anymore, but that's what he wants. At the end of the day, whenever we need him, he's still atop this mountain, ready for a pet. And as our hunter pets Poogie, he gives us a memento of his past life, an ancient wyvern coin from his old kingdom of Wyveria, a token of gratitude, and now a symbol of change. Thank you, Poogie. You will always be our hog, but for now, your people need a king.